Throughout the decades, women's fashion in America has consistently changed and grown. From regal elegance in the 1900s to the modern stylistic choices of the 21st century, fashion has become a defining feature of each decade. Surprisingly, the changes are best seen through the evolution of postmodernism.
Postmodernism is an era of change and resistance. Later in the 20th century, people started to steer away from philosophy and the answers that it proposed. Art was purely subjective. There was no way to define something as true or not. Skepticism was an important factor for this development because people didn't believe that there was one answer to everything. The world became more subjective than it had ever been.
From the early 1900s to around 1930, fashion trends were feminine, consisting of dresses, hats, and gloves. This was a time of accentuating women's features while also adhering to traditional modesty. Fashion of this time was extremely put together and always perfect. There was no real variety in the style of early 1900s because everyone followed the trends of the time.
It wasn't until the 40s that women's fashion became something completely different. With the beginnings of the feminist movement in effect, a taste of postmodernism was seen. Philosophers like Simone de Beauvoir brought the subject into question. What is the definition of a woman? This question started a fashion trend in women that had yet to be seen in America.
Pants! Never before had women worn pants as a fashion choice. More masculine choices were being made, such as shoulder pads and trousers, which had challenged the extreme femininity of previous decades.
Si on devait le résumer, ce qui est évidemment très difficile, pourrait peut-être tourner autour de cette idée qui a été souvent reprise depuis, mais que j'aimerais bien vous voir expliquer. On ne naît pas femme, on le devient.
Oui, c'est en somme la formule qui résume l'ensemble de mes thèses. Et ce qu'elle signifie est très simple, c'est que être femme, ce n'est pas une donnée naturelle. C'est le résultat d'une histoire. Il n'y a pas un destin biologique, psychologique, qui définissent la femme en tant que telle. C'est une histoire qu'il a faite, d'abord l'histoire de la civilisation, qui aboutit à son statut actuel, et d'autre part, pour chaque femme particulière, c'est l'histoire de sa vie. En particulier, c'est l'histoire de son enfance, qui la détermine comme femme, qui crée en elle quelque chose qui n'est pas du tout une donnée, une essence.
Sartre's existentialism in Europe had also begun to spread across the Western world, which was an important precursor to postmodernism. People began to see the individual or the subject. This had an interesting effect on the culture in America.
Subcultures in America began to grow like wildfires. There had previously been popular subcultures such as the swing or jazz subcultures of the 30s and 40s, but the 60s showed an extreme growth in the stylistic choices.
While preferred fashion choices of the 60s was pastel dresses and perfectly hairsprayed hair, more aggressive subcultures formed. The beginnings of punk rock spurred a new fashion style of all black. The style was messy and hardcore, consisting of chains, spikes, and plenty of ripped clothing. This showed one of the most extreme styles of the 21st century compared to the similar, but more refined goth subculture of the late 60s, leading to the 70s.
This was the beginning of the term postmodernism. Jean-François Lyotard, a French philosopher, claimed postmodernism was the society rejecting the perceived truth. There is no right answer for anything. The late 60s showed a time of change in fashion, clearly indicating a shift in ideology in America. The emergence of many subcultures and the continued growth shows a society that didn't want to think of fashion as set in stone. People wanted to be unique.
During the 70s and 80s, fashion changed dramatically. Hippie culture grew like wildfire, as well as the disco music scene. Leading into the 80s, even more showed up, such as hip-hop culture, pop, and dance music. Even in the 90s, the grunge scene emerged.
While those are just a few of the subcultures that became prevalent in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, hundreds of subcultures grew from those subcultures. Postmodernism really began to take form.
Postmodernism began to take shape in America. People wanted to be an individual. How could they do that if everyone was dressed the same? The growth of subcultures shows an extreme rejection of conformity. People didn't accept that there was one way to dress. In other words, fashion was purely subjective.
Hi, my name is Lily Pena. I'm a 17-year-old who goes to RBR, I'm a junior.
This is here, $22. Gorgeous, adorable, petite. I spent an arm and 3 legs for this in green from a name brand, I don't know.
I would describe my style as a lot of 90s influences. Also, I like a lot of denim. You can never go wrong with too much denim. It can never be too much denim. Denim on denim. I would say definitely a mishmash of little collection of different things. I love a good 70s style, like aggressive patterns. I think flared things. I do a lot of flare. I think I take that from 70s-esque, but like I said, 90s a lot of patterns. I've been getting more. I used to be afraid of doing patterns too much, but I think that's where the wind is taking me.
As postmodernism in America has become a way of life, so has fashion. The influence of non-conforming postmodernism is clearly seen through the extremely wide variety of clothing and accessories available. People use this philosophy to borrow trends from the past and to create new ones, making fashion and beauty completely subjective. Some may even call our time the era of the subject.